3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Hello and welcome to the Single Muslim Live, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com with me, Nazia Khatun. We're here live on Sky 752 and across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Wherever you're watching, a very warm welcome. You too can join us in tonight's discussion and get advice by simply calling to the studio on 019 2423 1083. Standard rates apply, so please make sure you have the bill payer's permission before calling, or why not share your thoughts with us via WhatsApp on 079 507 97017. Today is the 10th day of Ramadan, so we have a very good special guest actually for today's episode. Today's guest is Sabba Mirza, and the topic is reinventing yourself after divorce. Assalamu alaikum, Sabba.
Wa alaikum assalam, Nazia.
How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and speaking about a very delicate topic. Before I get in, can you just quickly explain to us what do you do in your daytime job?
Okay, so firstly, thank you for having me here, Nazia, and I really hope those listening do find this beneficial. So my day job, I work as a lawyer, so I'm a senior associate at a city law firm, and I specialise in data protection and cybersecurity. So in a nutshell, I work with a number of companies, social media platforms, online tech businesses, in making sure that their data protection compliance is up to the standard expected by the regulators and under the law, and all that's done in order to protect the personal details and data of individuals like myself and you as well. So that's what it is in a nutshell. At work, I'm also involved in recruitment quite heavily and a number of diversity initiatives, from looking at more, encouraging more ethnic minorities to come into the legal profession as well as women at work. And outside all of that, when I get time, I volunteer.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff going on there. You're a senior associate solicitor doing a lot for the community. Why? Can you just explain to us what is let me ask that again. What is the importance of your role in the community?
So like I said, the law's there primarily to protect the personal data of individuals like ourselves. And I think that's a huge moral obligation on companies that are actually monetizing data and using that about people and making profiles of individuals to see, what it is we like, how we market to them, and all of that. So, and our information, especially things like our financial data or, data about our health, is very, very personal to us. So I think, yes, there is a community service in one sense involved by making sure we advise companies to deal with our data appropriately. So individuals, therefore, they're not aggrieved with how their data is used. And it's not breached or it doesn't come into the wrong hands of people, which often happens. And then we've got to go in and sort of rescue that situation. So there is, and I think in terms of the other initiatives I do at work, we all know diversity is really, really important. We've seen that a lot, especially over the last year in the news with everything going on around the world. And it's just making sure that, whoever you are, irrespective of your background, your community, or your beliefs, you have an equal shot at life as everyone else. And it's not about, privilege or nepotism. It's making the professional accessible to everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's important we got an understanding of your background so people can actually relate. Because I remember when I first met you a few years back, it was, wow, you are a professional Muslim female in an industry where we don't actually see females like yourself in a higher ranking, I guess, as well. And the topic today is about reinventing yourself after divorce. And we worked together for a fitness program. Was it 2018 or 19?
It was It was summer 2018, yeah.
So it was quite a long time ago. And at the time when we met, I had no idea what was going on behind that beautiful smile, behind your identity with your career. Can you just talk to us through what was going on at the first initial stages? Because I want to take this interview through a journey of where you were, where you are now, and then look into the future. So it gives people hope as well, so that they can reinvent themselves after a divorce.
I hope so. So, like Nazia said, I obviously met her in the summer of 2018, and there were two things going on. One I shared with Nazia, and one I didn't. So, what I shared with Nazia was that there was a big sort of family wedding coming up. It was my now ex-sister-in-law who was getting married, and I just wanted to look the part, and I felt as if my fitness hadn't been the same. I was feeling lethargic, drained. I felt I wasn't in shape anymore. And so I hired, and that's what I told Nazia, I want to feel like $1 million on that day. I'm going to see the family after such a long time. I did have a brief separation with my ex-husband prior to that, and it was the first time the whole family would be seeing me. So I guess I didn't want to lose face. So that's what I told Nazia. In the background, what was going on was I had already, following Ramadan that year, made up my mind that I actually was going to file for divorce. So Ramadan in 2018 was completely instrumental, and it was a massive turning point in my life. It's really where I found myself at crossroads. What do I do? I love this man, but I'm also in an abusive marriage, and I've been hoping for 4 years that things will get better, they'll get better, and they're not getting better. And I did istikhara, which as most of you would know, it's a prayer that we do, where we seek for guidance, for direction. And it was sort of the first time in 4 or 5 years that I really had a lot of clarity that this is the direction that I need to go in. And I knew from Nazia's Instagram page that she has worked with quite a lot of women who had gone through a divorce. So I knew she would understand. It just wasn't something I shared with her at the first consultation, because I still had hope till the very last day that perhaps some miracle would happen and things would work out and I wouldn't need to go through a divorce. So I still had that hope. Even though my mind was also made up. So I guess part of hiring Nazia was also to help me sort of console my heart, about sort of the journey I was going to sort of go on to, and also make sure I had that strength and resilience for it. Because in an abusive marriage, where there was a lot of coercive control, I had lost sense of myself and my identity. And that is what I needed Nazia's support to reconnect me with. So Nazia, it was, I think, our third or so session in week 3 that we sat outside the Tower of London on the benches outside, where they've got the big ice cream van and everything. And that's when I told you I filed for divorce. And I still remember that look on your face. You were just so shocked that, oh my God, I hadn't realized. And I think that's just an example that we see a lot of stuff on social media. And it's that classic saying, all that glitters is not gold. You may have everything in the world. You may, wear the brightest smile on your face. You may be very successful. But, no one knows what we're dealing with behind closed doors, unless it is that we share. And Nazia, you were the first person I shared that with. And I'm so grateful you were there for me during that time.
Oh, bless you. I think this is why this this program is so important, that we had a connection, and that journey from where you were before to where you are now. It's like watching two different people. And you're right. I was so shocked to know that you're going through something with a beautiful smile. Like I said, the mask that you were wearing eventually dropped. And I guess a lot of people who go through the situation that you went through, it's hard for them to speak about it. It's hard, especially in our Asian community, in the South Asian community. We have a horrible stigma with divorce, divorcees, whether you're a female or a man. I don't know who gets more of the stick, but I guess I hear it a lot more from females. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Sabba. And honestly, I know this is going to be like a very raw topic for people who are watching us. Please make sure you do take the time to either call us live in the studio or give us a message on 07950. 017. So Sabba, tell me, what was going through your mind at that time emotionally at the beginning stages of your divorce?
So emotionally, it's like, so even though I ended the marriage, I was devastated. And I mean, it's taken so many years now to actually talk about it, and I can somehow miraculously do it with still sort of a neutral face or smile on my face. I'd been floods of tears, a couple of years ago discussing all this. But what went through my mind was that I didn't want hostility. I wanted to close that chapter in my life with as much kindness as possible. I'd made my mind up that I'm not going to play dirty in the divorce. I'm not going to fight, not going to do anything underhanded or sort of do anything to betray my ex. I still did have feelings for him at that point, and there was still that attachment, which is, I guess it's expected, isn't it? You've lived with someone for 4 years. You've shared all aspects of your life with them. You're in this, sacred bond. You're in nikah, and that was all coming to a close. So it was a whole load of mixed emotions, dealing with the loss of a marriage, dealing with the loss of what I felt the marriage could have been or our future could have been, and obviously just preparing myself for what was, I just thought the divorce was going to be a lot of form filling and admin and things like that. And that's what I'd prepared myself for. I wasn't quite prepared for what actually transpired and happened. But it was just one of those things I had to deal with,
So
one day at a time.
Oh,
Can you not?
sorry. Sarah, can you still hear me? Sorry.
I can, yeah.
Good. So there was a lot of stuff going through emotionally, and I think a lot of people can appreciate that as well. We are going to be going on a break very, very shortly, but I just wanted to cover the emotional stuff that you went through. Were you able to share any of that with anybody else other than me?
So I shared it with you, and I shared a lot of it with my mother. Some friends, yes, initially. I think with friends, the situation was, I mean, they're so helpful and they're lovely, but some got it and some didn't. So some would say things that would then make a flippant remark like, why are you upset? He was such an awful man. And they forget that attachment piece there, that you've shared your life with someone. And I was open about it at work. And I think work's one of the best places where I got support.
Sabba, I'm going to stop you there because I want to come back to it because it's really important. We are going to be going on a break. Please make sure you in and see you very shortly.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Thank you and welcome back. We're going to go straight over to Sabba because there was some important stuff that I had to cut her out on. So Sabba, please carry on with the question was, were you able to confide in other people other than myself at that time?
Yes, so I did confide in my friends at work quite a lot. And at home, I confided a lot in my mother. I think at work, work have been absolutely wonderful throughout this whole sort of time in my life. They understood that I had been wearing a mask for all these years. There were times towards the end, just before the breakdown of the marriage, that they had suspicions as to whether something was okay or not. Physically, I looked weaker. I wasn't my usual happy, chirpy self. So, and I did speak to them and I said, look, I understand this is a professional environment and it is about maintaining professionalism at all times. I am in a senior role as well. So a lot of people come confide in me, but I can't wear this mask anymore. And they said, look, we get it. Get whatever support you need and we're right behind you. And I confided in my mum a fair bit at the start, but then I stopped because it upset her so much. And that was the same with my friends as well. I felt just the whole discussion about it. There were a lot of things like, why didn't you tell us earlier, Sabba? I can't believe this happened and you didn't share it with us. So, and then you have this new emotion being introduced, which is guilt. That should I have told people before? And I'm not the only one who's sad and hurting at this point in time. My friends and family and my loved ones are as well. So I had to pick, and I think at the very initial stages, my safe space, of course, was you, Nazia, and also my lawyer, my divorce lawyer.
Wow. Honestly, I mean, it's raw emotions, even listening to you, and there are so many different kind of stories people share about their divorce. So honestly, it's really brave that we're speaking about this, that you're actually sharing your journey. And inshallah, I pray that it actually helps people learn lots from you, because you have a lot to offer. We have, before we move on, we have a question for you, Sabba, from a person who's just called in or messaged in. It's a question for Sabba. Please, because of your toxic, unhealthy relationship you had, do you feel ready for love? And these are some of the things we're going to speak about, but let's just answer them now. So the question is, the first one, you spoke a bit about your abusive relationship. I don't want to go too much into detail about that, but just on the surface level, do you think now you're ready for love and marriage?
Yes, if you'd asked me this question in 2018, you'd find a big hole behind that wall in the back, a Sabba-shaped hole. I'd run a mile. But I am. I think what's happened since I filed for divorce is then I had to, like I said, I'd lost sense of myself in an abusive marriage. I had to first reconnect with myself. And a friend of mine said something really profound a couple of weeks ago when I was talking to her, and she said, you can't give from a cup that's half full. So I had to find myself again, feel content within myself, and really understand and accept that a divorce doesn't define us. This divorce is a chapter in my life, but it's not the be all and end all of my life. And it's certainly not what defines me. And it shouldn't define anyone. Why should a relationship that hasn't worked out with someone define you? It's completely absurd, the concept altogether. I think we place too much emphasis on someone's divorcee status. But I think I've understood through getting back in tune with myself, accepting myself, flourishing is the word I like to use. I'm by no way the finished product. It's very much work in progress, this reinvention. And I think it has to be a consistent thing in life. But I am open to starting that chapter in my life with the right person when he comes along, and ready to find love. I think love's a beautiful thing. I strongly believe in the institution of marriage. And just because you've had one bad experience, it doesn't mean all experiences are going to be that way. It's about learning from that bad experience and moving forward.
Sabba, thank you so much. And I pray people are listening, like actively listening to your words. And you said here, a divorce shouldn't be the thing that defines a person. We, as a South Asian community, we have a horrible stigma on this topic. Why do you think that is? From traditionally, culturally, historically, we're in modern society now. In your opinion, do you think we've moved on from that stigma?
Yes and no. And you use the word modern society, which I think is quite interesting. Now, if we think about Islam, sort of historically what it is, both men and women have the right to divorce in Islam. Just because it wasn't something that was quite the flavor in our culture or not quite accepted culturally, we can't change what's in Islam. So there are certain grounds whereupon you can actually file for divorce, and a woman has equal rights to a man in that regard as well. So I think the stigma, part of it comes from that disconnect from Islam, in some ways, I believe. I think also stigmas, I feel we have so much of those in the South Asian community. And I think some is, I guess, because of the cultural tensions and sort of the backwards mentality, as we say sometimes. But I do also have some sympathy for our elders, because look, they uprooted from South Asia and they came to this country, and the whole mindset they had at that point in time was to survive. It was making a life here in England, supporting people back home. So I think that survival mindset's there, which is why perhaps women are therefore encouraged, or, try and make it work, keep going, don't get divorced. And divorce then is seen as something like you gave up. But personally for me, I've been quite fortunate. People around me, at least to my face, have been supportive. Look, if they say something behind my back, Nazia, what I don't know can't harm me. And it's their iman at the end of the day, whether they're being authentic when they speak to me or not. But people have been quite supportive. I find it's a generational thing as well. So like there may be young men my age who don't have a problem with me being divorced, but their mothers would, for instance. But it's something we do need to work on.
Yeah, you raised some, look, there's two things that you raised, and that is how we are approached in society now, and also the survival mechanism of our parents. Our parents came to this country, or the elder generation, shall I say, came to this country, and it was an expectation of them to stay together, to raise a family and make sure we just survived. Whereas now the option, and again, connecting it to what you said Islamically, the females' rights and the choices we make also has an impact on our future, which is so important to actually remember when you're going through this process, or if somebody's experiencing divorce at the moment. Sabba, what were the things that you did? I mean, at the beginning, we got you on a program for fitness. Fitness helped you for one element. But what are the other things that you did, or the factors, shall I say, that contributed to your journey of growth after the divorce?
So obviously, like you say, with the fitness element, and I mean, don't forget, Nazia, you also addressed a lot of the nutritional element as well, because I'm the sort of person, when I'm stressed, I stop eating. So me seeing you to do a bit of exercise made me then go home and have sort of a healthy meal that evening, and then the next morning, and it got me back in the routine of eating. Again, that's just how I deal with stress. I just completely fall out of love with food. But other than the fitness, I got support, so counselling. I was very lucky in the sense that I could go via occupational health at work and get counselling through that. I know a lot of employers offer it for people. For those who don't, don't despair. You've got the NHS, and there's a whole load of charities as well offering sort of talking therapy as well. So there is a lot of support out there for women. So I went through therapy because for me, I wanted that one space, that sort of 45 minutes to talk about what I've been through, the traumas during the marriage, and what I was feeling at that point in time as well, because the divorce for me was quite traumatic. And how my counsellor described it was that they punished you for filing for divorce. It was a case that went on, the financial aspect of it, for 2.5 years. Only just got done Monday last week, believe it or not. And the thing is, though, there wasn't a need for that. It could have been done, 2 years ago, or at least a year and a half ago. So I got therapy, and I think having that independent space to speak to someone and open up about my feelings without judgment was very, very important, because a counsellor will never pass judgment. They'll guide you on what you're saying. Whereas I find, friends, families, your loved ones, they will, out of a positive place, it's not negativity, but out of a place of love, they will pass some sort of judgment. And I found that wasn't always helpful for me.
Sabba, I'm gonna go on break in literally 15 seconds. Thank you. It's very important we remember therapy and fitness. So we're gonna come back to that. Please make sure you tune in. We're talking about reinventing yourself after divorce.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
welcome back. And today's topic is about reinventing yourself after divorce. We've got Sabba Mirza speaking to us about her journey, and we would love to hear from you. Please make sure you send us your questions, or maybe even share your experience of what helped you going through divorce, or what it was like, or the good things, the bad things. There is never a good thing, I guess, but some people it may be. So please, I'll look forward to hearing from you on 07950797017. I am thirsty, so excuse my stuttering a little bit. Sabba, I want to come back to you again on this topic that we left on therapy. We have a bit of a barrier when it comes to seeking help, when it comes to mental health help, when it comes to physical health, whether it comes to any kind of help in our community. You mentioned you experience abuse. You were involved in an abusive marriage. In what sense did the therapy help you recover or rebuild yourself again?
So how therapy helped me sort of recover from all of that was, obviously I'd go in and I'd sort of give my account of what had happened at that time, whether it was a particular incident or whether it was sort of a general theme that was occurring. And I had someone sitting in front of me who listened to how that made me feel. And that's one of the things. I never had someone listening to me during that marriage. There was no sense of validation. And what the therapists did was, well, you know, through talking to them, what I was able to learn and take away from it was my experiences and what I had are not the negativity of it all. It's not a reflection on me. The fact that somebody was abusive may well be because they've had something go on in their past. Perhaps there's something going on with them that they need to address and they haven't done that inner work. But someone's wrong actions and the fact that you've suffered at their hands is not always a reflection. It's not a reflection on you. And I think that's something that you should always remember. And also how someone treats you, you can't control. But what you can control are your reactions to it. So I think for me, it was also about learning, you know, certain things that really would upset me. I want to now make sure that, you know, in the future, if someone, say if I get married and, you know, my new husband say something to me, which my ex-husband said, I can't let that trigger me in a negative way and, you know, open up a whole sort of can of worms with emotions as to this happened to me before, etc. Because that's not healthy. And that's why it's important to go to therapy and actually deal with what you've gone through. Now, what I can do is perhaps better manage that situation. You know, so when you're in that really difficult situation, what is it that you do? How best to react? How best to take care of yourself and your well-being during that time? So therapy does equip you with a whole load of skills as well, but it also releases you from the trauma that you've had. And I know people use the word baggage quite a lot. I don't quite like the word, but I can't think of an alternative at this point in time. But we carry quite a lot from our childhood, our past experiences. And that reflects on how we are in the future, and it manifests in different ways. So stress, for instance, may manifest in our mental health or even our physical health. You may think, oh, I'm perfectly fine, but physically you're deteriorating. And that's what therapy helps you do. So it eliminates that prospect of, you know, that sort of ticking time bomb where everything's just going to catch up with you and, you know, you're going to have that meltdown. And there's nothing wrong with having a meltdown. That's the other thing. We're humans. Our emotions are fragile. Our bodies are also fragile, but they're also very resilient as well. And it's learning how best we can adapt to sort of help ourselves and maintain our well-being. So therapy really helped with that. But I think therapy helped with, I think, the guilt that I had, you know, why didn't I leave sooner? Why wasn't I strong enough? Why didn't I share it with people? It dealt with the shame. And, you know, it's really great when you are able to free yourself of all those emotions, because you don't want to be feeling shame, guilt. You want to be feeling happy, positive, you know, generally going forward and not carry any sort of negativity with you. So I think it's a must. And again, you know, we're accountable to ourselves and we're accountable to Allah at the end of the day. So how we treat our bodies, how we treat our mind, it's all part of our iman. If you come to a particular position where you're stuck, go seek help. You know, when we were in a classroom back in the day in school, if we needed help, we put our hands up, didn't we? And we asked for the teacher to come and help. Just treat a therapist. That's there isn't, and what's the stigma about it? There should be no shame or stigma in identifying that you need support and going out to seek it, because that shows you're conscientious, it shows you're willing, and it shows you're growing and evolving as an individual.
Before we move on to the next part of the conversation, we're so honored that you were willing to share your experience with us here, Sabba. And, and if any viewers have ever experienced or are experienced any kind of distress or any kind of violence, especially with the pandemic, please make sure you seek out help. And there is a screen that's come up, and you can go to TV.TV/support, where you can speak to somebody in confidence without any judgment. And please make sure, like Sabba said, when we were in class once, we put our hands up when we needed help. This is the time to ask for help. And I always say, asking for help actually makes you stronger and more of a brave person than staying quiet. Sabba, honestly, there is tons and tons. I'm gonna urge my viewers to actually replay this and put this on my social media as well, because the information you're giving us, the first-hand experience, also makes a huge difference compared to somebody who speaks about it in a theoretical, psychological sense. So to have somebody who's gone through the ordeal, and I've watched you and I've witnessed you from 2018 to where you are now. It's been 3 long years, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 3 long years of your healing, rehealing and healing again. And therapy is something that we all need. Doesn't matter what our background is, doesn't matter what we've experienced, we need the inner child healing. And therapy comes in different forms. Sabba chose to come on the fitness program as a healing process first, as therapy. Then she went to talking therapy. So everything combined together. And somebody of your background, you're very, how do I say, coming from a professional background, somebody who's, you know, in a profession where you had support, it makes a huge impact on the way you dealt with it compared to somebody, maybe a housewife, right? Let's just put the comparison together. What advice would you give to somebody that wasn't from your background, or somebody who can relate to a professional background, somebody who's at home, a stay-at-home mom with children, and who's experiencing these kind of issues? What advice would you give them, Sabba?
So I think, look, my advice would be, I don't think profession or sort of background, or whether someone's a housewife versus working, has anything to do with it. At the end of the day, I'm a woman, and so is, you know, the woman that you described, you know, that housewife who perhaps doesn't have access to, you know, occupational health or anything like that I did. My advice would be that, look, help is still out there. You know, and the first port of help, which people always seem to forget, is your own GP. You know, just make an appointment online or go visit them and talk to them about it, and they will give you a whole wealth of resources and point you to the right direction for help and support. A lot of charities now are running domestic violence helplines. Even the Muslim charities are now doing it as well. And I think that's really, really important, because you can phone up and speak to someone who you feel you may be able to relate to more because of that faith-based background. But there is help and support out there. And if you're absolutely confused, just go to your GP and tell them what's going on first, and they'll put you in the right sort of, they'll send you in the right direction. But don't feel that because you're a housewife that makes you really vulnerable and helpless and you can't do anything. Yes, there will be challenges you may need to think about in the future, like, you know, an income or housing, but there is a lot of support here. We're quite fortunate considering we live in England, and there's a lot of support for people in those situations there. If you're in a situation where you're under threat, you can be rehoused because your safety and well-being does come first.
Yes, I mean, that, I never thought about that. Contact your GP, contact people that you have immediate access to. So that was a very, very helpful advice there. Thank you so much. What do you reckon then, Sabba, in your opinion, was the hardest thing after your divorce?
The hardest thing after my divorce, I think, was the process of actually getting through the divorce. So, like I said, my financial remedy case went on for 2.5 years. I went to court 8 times or something in the space of just over a year and a half, for something that could have been resolved in 2 court hearings. So I think that was very difficult, emotionally. And I had not only my ex-husband, but also his dad joined the proceedings. And so I was almost they turned it into a fight, and it was very hostile. And I was up against 2 people, and I never said anything to them. I just took the high road, did what I had to do. I had my lawyer advising me, and that was fine. I think the one time I did say something to my ex about it was when I saw him face to face in court one time. He kept saying, Sabba, you're going to lose, drop the case, you're going to lose, and you're going to have to pay tens of thousands in costs. And I said, but I could win as well. And he goes, yeah, but I always beat you at everything. I'm a winner, you're not, So I had this man who saw me as a complete loser. And I said to you, did it ever occur to you that during the marriage where you felt you won, that was because I perhaps let you win as well? Sometimes it's about taking the path of least resistance. It's about looking at the greater good. I said, but now it's come to principle, and I will win this because I'm not wrong, and my Allah is with me. And alhamdulillah, about a year and a half after uttering those words, here I am sort of today, and it has worked out.
Yeah.
But I think going through that case, trying to hold down a job, and that to a demanding job, that was very difficult.
Oh, wow. I just want to add something here. I know people can't see Sabba behind the screen. Sabba is a very tiny, petite individual. A very, very petite individual, but her spirit is that of a fighting tiger. And just listening to you say what you just said there about what your ex-husband said and where you are now, I genuinely feel like that strength within you, having that voice and using your voice as well. And this is, I guess, a very profound thing as well. Females like yourself speaking about your experiences and being very, very authentically raw with it is also very important in our society, because not only are you giving people hope, but you're also changing somebody else's life. Maybe somebody sitting there behind the screen watching this and scared and thinking they need someone to save them or some words to say, listen, I need to get out of this marriage because of whatever the reason is. So I rate you, girl. We are going to be going on break very, very soon. And when we come back, we're going to speak a little bit about mental health, and we're going to go into a little bit about how Sabba experienced it. In the meantime, we would love to hear from you. You can call us live on 01924231083, or you can text us on 07950797017. So far, we have covered heaps. I can't even remember most of the things that we have spoken about. Sabba, before we go on break, how do you feel now sitting where you are right now? 3 words to describe your feelings.
3 words. I'm content. I'm hopeful. And I'm very grateful as well. I think those are the 3 words I'd say.
So you said content, hopeful
and grateful. Yeah.
I love that. Content, hopeful and grateful. They always say being patient is a virtue, isn't it? And here we are. So we're going to be going on a break. Thank you so much, Sabba. Please join us on the last segment. We have very interesting topics to cover as well. Mental health through somebody who's going through divorce is a very, very necessary issue that we need to talk about. So please join us and see you very, very shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Right, welcome back, and we are on the last 15 minutes or so, and we have a lot to cover. Sabba, are you still there? Yes, you are. We want to speak a bit about your mental health during the time when you went through the divorce, and maybe even, I don't know, now let's see if there's anything there that we can share information with. At the time when you were going through the divorce and going through the experience of a toxic marriage, what was your mental health like?
So I was going through high levels of anxiety. I was always sort of on edge, just, something may go wrong, sort of always treading on eggshells, always over analyzing things as well. If I say this, will it be okay? Or will someone take offense? Or, so I had really sort of high levels of anxiety. And then once I filed for divorce, and then, the whole sort of protracted legal proceedings started, I did go through low mood depression, and alhamdulillah, it is something now that I have overcome. But obviously, having now experienced something like that, it is something I have to be very mindful of and watch. So I'm aware of sort of what the signs are for me when I'm feeling particularly low. I know what my little pick-me-ups are, and you don't even need to do anything major to pick yourself up. It can just be something like, sitting back with a book and having a cup of tea, and that's sort of my happy place as well, and sort of figuring that out. But I did go through low mood depression and high levels of anxiety, and that the place where that became most evident was at work. So sort of doubting myself, being very unsure of my work, whereas that's an area where you're a specialist, that's your expertise, and you're still doubting yourself. There was low confidence. And just, I wasn't sort of my usual chirpy self, I'm the sort of person who walks into the office and you hear me say good morning and it's all very nice and positive, whereas I just wasn't. I'd even lost interest in how I looked, not wearing makeup for anything, wearing sort of dark, sort of baggier clothes where you just sort of hide away in all of that. So I went through sort of all of that. Again, food became an issue as well. So when I'm really upset and stressed, I can't eat. Some people tend to eat a lot. I'm the opposite. So, and that's the sort of thing that the therapy helped me with. And there's different levels of anxiety and depression. A lot of people, now that I'm quite aware of it, I do see that a lot of people around me have gone through that as well. And again, that's why I say, and I was encouraging people earlier to go get help, because it's something, we're all in it together sort of thing. We're all human. We've got sort of the same, we're programmed the same way. And going through anxiety and depression, it was a normal reaction to the very abnormal situation that I was in.
Yes.
I was, there was a lot of control, abuse, and there was a lot of bullying during the divorce. So those reactions are completely normal.
I remember, just going back in my memory, we did a lot of self-love healing. We did a lot of self-love journaling, taking yourself out on self-love dates. Because after the transition of coming, having the guts to go through a divorce is one thing. And then as a single person again, finding yourself, the journey is really important to work on those issues: anxiety, depression, being on edge all the time, being nervous all the time. So I really rate you. We have some followers who sent us some messages. I just want to quickly read them out to you, Sabba. Sabba is so inspiring. We need more role models like her. So I'm so glad you decided to come and talk about this, because the divorce rate in our community is increasing and has been increasing a lot in the past, 5 years maybe. And a lot of people still find it very hard to speak about these things when, again, you said, we're all human, we're all going through this experience in a very similar way. So thank you for that, viewer who sent that message to us. And Sabba, I'm just going to repeat that again. Sabba is so inspiring. We need more role models like her. So we have a question as well. This is a good one, actually. We spoke about a little bit about guilt and shame in one of your conversation questions. The question is, how do you get over the shame of divorce? Or actually, let's look at that. How did you get over the shame?
That's interesting, because the shame I felt was the fact that I tolerated abuse for such a long time.
Wow.
And I was beating myself about the fact that I'm educated. You know, I'm aware of all of this. You know,
Yeah.
I know what the divorce rate's like. I know how to, at least where to go to get help. I'm not a divorce lawyer, so I don't know the ins and outs of that. And that's a huge misconception, that people think that I knew my way around the divorce. I didn't. Now I know, because I've gone through it. But before, I went in completely blind. But with divorce itself, I had no shame at all, because I'm exercising my God-given right, and I exercised that after 4 long years. And I know some people might say 4 years isn't that much, but they don't know what I went through. And it's not no one's business for me to sit there. I'm not going to sit here and share the ins and outs of exactly what went on, or how difficult it was for me. No one needs to know the details. I think it's sufficient that that's between me and my Allah, and that's it. He knows, and he'll give me justice. But why should I have shame after I've tried everything? I even had marriage counseling, so it wasn't like I hadn't exhausted all options. But the day I filed for divorce was when I felt, if I were to die today and I'm standing in front of my Lord, and my Lord asks me, did you do everything you could to save that marriage? I could say with my head held high, yes, I did. I tried my level best. I don't know what more I could have done. And if you're in that place, then why should you have shame? Because some Joe blogs will judge you. People judge you all the time. I mean, I get judged because I'm a lawyer. I get judged because I'm like 5'1" or 5'2". I've been judged over skin color, whatnot, my choices in life. Who cares? This is my life, and it's what I want to make out of it. And I exercised a God-given right. And I did so. I didn't just, it wasn't a decision I took off the whim, for sure. A lot of thought went into it. So no shame on the divorce element whatsoever.
See, I love that. I love the passion in your voice. There is no shame. If it's not working and it's something that's not right for you, I think people feel shame because they feel like they're letting down their family, they're letting down their parents. And where we have such an expectation on marriage in the Asian culture, it becomes a bit toxic in terms of our mindset as well. So that's a really good approach Sabba gave us right there. So the other question we have as well, how does somebody approach, the question that came in is, how do I approach my husband for divorce? How did you do it?
Okay, so it's really difficult. The reason why I came onto your program was because I wanted to sort of pluck up that courage to sit on the other side of the table, sort of to him, and say, look, I've been trying. These are the things that just aren't working out. And I'm at a point where I think it's best for us to go our separate ways. That's what I wanted to do. And obviously there was a big family wedding coming up. I didn't want to do anything to disrupt that. So I was going to wait for that wedding to finish. So I needed to obviously feel good on that wedding, because I wanted to put a brave face on, knowing that, okay, now I'm going to have this awful conversation and bring it all to a close. But how it actually happened was completely different. There was an incident that had happened in the house while we were visiting his parents. It was literally like sort of, you've got three people ganging up against me. There was a lot of sort of intimidation and everything going on. And then I thought to myself, why am I putting myself at risk? My well-being's at risk. And I just sort of took a deep breath, and I just said the words, enough. And I said, call my dad now. I'm out of here. And that was it. And I packed my bags I didn't speak to my ex at all during that time. And he didn't approach me or anything. He just sat there with his mum telling him, well, you know, she's going, let her go, sort of thing. Another one will come along, sort of thing. But I did, when I was leaving, I did look at him and I cried. And I just said, even today, you've not taken a stand and you've not done the right thing. And I said, I'm never coming back now. And that was it. And didn't go back.
Brilliant stuff. We haven't got long left here, Sabba, and we can carry on. I feel like about this. Really quickly before we wrap up, what are your future plans? Are you looking to get married, and what are you doing going forward?
So going forward, like I said, I'm content right now. But I also like, you know, I think being in love is a beautiful thing. Being married is beautiful. I've left that possibility open. So yes, I am looking in a nutshell. But the search is not sort of the be all and end all of my life. There's a lot of other things that I'm focusing on other than myself. I do a lot of charity work. So, you know, from running the marathon to trekking. And so I'm making the most out of the opportunities that I have in life and I've got my heart and mind completely open to the fact that, you know, my knight in shining armor will come along, inshallah. And then that will be something else then in my life that then I'll have someone to share that growth, that love, that journey with.
Honestly, Sabba, it's been so refreshing speaking to you today. And I just want to say to my viewers, if anybody has been affected by any of the stuff that we've been speaking about abuse, about being in a toxic relationship, please make sure you actively go out and seek help. There is britishmuslim.tv/support. You can also access them through the website. Please, whatever you do, just don't sit there in silence. The pandemic has created a lot of sad, lonely, going through depression, all sorts of negative emotions are out there. But we would like to let you know there is help on offer. And Sabba, thank you so much. We covered so much today. It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure having you as a guest. And it's been a pleasure having you guys tune in. So if you guys have any questions for the next few shows, please message us on Confident on 079-507-97017. For me, Nazia Khatun, along with the whole team at British Muslim TV, thank you for joining us. Until next week, Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.